Welcome back. I'm joined by Championship correspondent Pascal Lemay to preview the final game of the season between Blackburn and Ipswich. Pascal, start with the away side. Sitting fifth in the table, need a point to ensure that they make the playoffs this season.
Yeah, I think the 3 wins out of 4 that they've had recently all come at home. They're the best home team in the league in terms of points haul at the moment. And last time out against Nottingham Forest, it was a decent 2-1 win. Forest, they didn't have anything to play for, but they're still a quality side. And in that game, Daryl Murphy gets on the score sheet again. That's 25 for the season for him now. I think he's the first Ipswich striker in 52 years to reach the 25 goal a season mark. So very impressive from him. And the way him and Freddie Sears are linking up, Sears set up his goal and then he set up Sears for the winner later on. So that's certainly a good partnership for them. And sort of Sears' emergence since they signed him from Colchester in January has been a huge boost because they've lost David McGoldrick to injuries. In a peculiar injury situation. Sort of he's supposed to have been coming back for quite a while, but he's never quite made it. And sort of Sears' emergence has been great for them. And yeah, like you say, sitting fifth in the table, they do have the most difficult game out of. There's sort of 4 sides basically competing for 5th and 6th place. Ipswich on 78 points, Derby on 77. You've got Brentford and Wolves on 75. So I think Brentford are the biggest threat to Ipswich because they're only, in terms of the goal difference, they're only 3 behind. So if Ipswich, say, lose by 2 goals, Brentford win by 1 goal, they've scored more goals over the whole season. So that would get Brentford in. So Ipswich, they need a point here. It's the sort of thing Mick McCarthy won't necessarily relish, but he's certainly good as a manager getting a point. He always says any point away from home is a good point, but away from home, they've just had 1 away win in their last 6 games. They are a far better team at home than they are away, but they'll certainly go there. It'll be interesting to see how they set up. Blackburn, they haven't got anything to play for. Ipswich, it's a huge, huge game for them. They haven't got into the playoffs for, I think it's over 10 years now, 11 seasons since they were last in the playoffs. So it's a massive, massive game for Ipswich. And as it stands, they are the side sitting, in the best position out of the 4 that can get the last 2 spots. But you look at who the other teams play. Brentford, they host Wigan, been relegated. Derby, they host Reading, in woeful form at the moment. And I think Wolves, they host Millwall, who have also been relegated. So the other 3, you'd expect all the other 3 to win. So it's a lot of pressure on Ipswich to get a point.
Obviously, massive game for Ipswich, more than it is so for Blackburn, because they're going to finish 9th regardless of the result here.
Yeah, they're guaranteed to finish 9th. On the whole, a pretty disappointing season. We've talked about it all season long, how inconsistency has plagued them. It's been a real problem for them. You look at the points haul they had last season, they were in 8th last season with 70 points. They're 9th with 64 this season. They can't finish any higher than 9th. They can't finish any lower than 9th. So where they are, it's pretty disappointing that they haven't made too much progress. Last time out, it was a 2-2 draw at Huddersfield. Both Jordan Rhodes and Rudy Gestede getting on the score sheet. They've both now got 20 goals themselves. We talk about Freddie Sears and Daryl Murphy, who have got 25 and 23, if you include Sears' goal for Colchester. But Rhodes and Gestede, both 20 goals. They've scored the last 8 goals for Blackburn, so it just shows how important they are. But the funny thing is that Gary Bowyer come out and said, they both, he didn't say they could be sold, but he said, there's a possibility, they know they're not going up. There's going to be Premier League interest in the pair again. I think Gestede is the one. Even though Rhodes, I think he's the first Blackburn striker since Alan Shearer to have 3 straight 20-goal seasons. That shows how well he's done. But I think Gestede, in terms of just his presence, he's one of the best headers of the ball I've seen in terms of a striker. He's fantastic in the air. You look at the stats each week, he wins most of his headers. He's an absolute beast in the air. And he's the sort of player that you think maybe just help a sort of bottom half Premier League side in terms of just winning headers and just being that physical presence. I'd be surprised if Rhodes left, but I think Gestede could certainly go because in January, I think Hull and Palace were both linked to him, and at one point he got dropped from the Blackburn team because it looked like he was definitely going to leave, but he didn't in the end. So if they can keep both, it'd be a massive plus for next season. But I expect one, or I don't think both. I think Gestede will leave this summer, and if they do, then they'll probably have to find a replacement or maybe change their system and just play Rhodes as a lone striker. But looking at their season on the whole, like I said, they've dropped from last season where they were, the points all they had last season, so it has been a step backwards, but it's still solid enough, but certainly they'll want to improve this summer.
So Ipswich need a point to ensure they get in the playoffs. Do you think they'll get it?
I think they'll get a point, yeah. I think Derby will win their game and they'll go up to 5th, and I think Ipswich will drop to 6th in the table. I think they're going to get a 1-1 draw here. I think it'll be very, very tense for the Ipswich fans. They'll be constantly checking to see how Brentford are doing because Brentford are the ones. Wolves, I think they're 7 goals behind, so Wolves would have to absolutely smash Millwall and Ipswich would have to get beat by a couple of goals here for them to overtake them. But there'll be keen eyes on the Brentford game, and if Brentford say go 3-0 up, quite quickly or something like that, there'll be a lot of pressure and the fans, it'll filter through to the players and it'll be a very, very nervous game. But I think Ipswich, they should just about come through. They're pretty solid defensively and I think they'll get a 1-1 draw.
Wolves will go for a 1-1 draw.